Well, good morning. Welcome to Debbie's Back Porch. So glad to have you with us. I'm craving mashed potatoes, and if you're like me, a craving has as much to do with texture as taste. And you know I like cauliflower, but a cauliflower mash is not exactly mashed potatoes. So I've been working on a mashed potato substitute that gives me that texture as well as a really good taste. And I'm going to show you how I did that today. And just a quick heads up, I'd really appreciate a thumbs up and a subscribe, and click the little bell icon so that you get notified when I post new videos a couple times a week. Now what I have here is a can of hominy, and I'm going to use hominy as the base of this dish to give it the texture, the fluffiness, and to tone down the cauliflower flavor just a little. So I'm using hominy. Is this a keto recipe? I don't know. It's reduced carbs, and I'm going to do some numbers here, run some numbers, and let you decide if this fits on your keto lifestyle. But I can tell you that it's very low carb. The number of carbs, net carbs on hominy varies according to your source. I went to a trusted source, and it tells me that hominy is 19.5 grams of net carbs per cup, and that's without all of the starchy water that you see in it. So let me show you the rest of the recipe. We'll get cooking. If you're not familiar with hominy, it's pretty easy to find in most grocery stores. It's corn that's been processed to get rid of the shell. And I've got a head of cauliflower here. And I'm going to weigh it to get the right count and not put the starchy liquid into the weight. The process for making hominy is called, let's see if I can say it, nixtamalization. And you soak it in some kind of a caustic solution. You can use, people used to use lye, you can use baking soda. I use lime, food grade lime, when I make it. And no, I don't suggest you make it. It takes all day, all of one day and half of another. And it's pretty easy to buy. So I'm measuring out as close as I can to 8 ounces. And you rarely see hominy on a keto diet. We're using just a little of it. It's going to be a small proportion of the finished recipe, but it makes a huge difference in the texture and some difference in the taste. 4 cups of cauliflower, you can use less, but then your carb count will be higher. So I put my cauliflower on to steam, and I'll steam it for 10 minutes. I just stuck this little bit of hominy over in the microwave. You can heat it in a pan. I just put it in the microwave. And I'm going to add a good amount of freshly ground black pepper and salt to this. Now both hominy and cauliflower taste pretty bland without salt. So I'm going to go ahead and put, I guess this is about a half teaspoonful, but I'll taste it again, and I know it will need more. I just want to wait until after it's all mixed together to add the final touch of salt. So I've got this seasoned with salt and pepper, and I'm going to put it over in my food processor. And when I start to mix this, you'll see the texture of this is good. I mean, you could just have mashed hominy, but that's not going to fit on any keto diet. It's going to be way too high in carbs. It's 19.5 grams, and I think a potato, a similar amount of potatoes is about 36 grams. So just the hominy would be lower than potatoes, but way too high for a keto diet or for any reasonable low-carb diet. So I'm going to get my lid on. You see I struggle with that a little bit every single time. And then I'm just going to pulse this as soon as I put the lid back on to keep it from going all over the counter. Pulse it 2 or 3 times and then turn it on and whip it pretty hard. I mean, I really want to break it up. The hominy is It has some firmness to it right in the center. You want to break all that up. You want to fluff this until it's really, really soft and fluffy and all the chewiness is gone. Then I'm going to add butter. I've got about 3 tablespoons full of butter there because I like butter. You can use less if you are someone who's watching fat. And I'm adding 2 ounces of heavy whipping cream. Use half and half if that's what you have. You could use milk, but it really doesn't bring the richness. So if you have some cream, that's fine. Oh, and if you don't have cream, you could use a little sour cream. That's good too. So I've got the butter and the cream and the salt and the pepper. That's all the seasoning I have here. And I'm going to whip this up and get all that mixed in really well. Now I'm letting my cauliflower steam for 10 minutes. That might be longer than you steam yours, but I want it to be really good and soft. I'm going to show you the texture here of the whipped hominy, which is quite different than if you just whip the cauliflower. Sorry, I had to get a spoon. I'm never quite prepared. Yes, I moved my camera when I opened the drawer. So here you go. Now, see that? And I'm going to give it a little taste. It's okay on salt now, but it's not going to be okay on salt later. We'll probably have to add at least another half teaspoonful, maybe more. I'm just going to set this aside while I prepare the cauliflower. Be right back. Now I've got some really soft paper towels spread out here. If you'd rather use a clean kitchen cloth, you can. However you want to do it, just putting the cauliflower in a colander is probably not enough to get the excess moisture out. So I'm going to wrap it up in this paper towel for just a minute, and it's really, really hot. I did steam it for 10 minutes. I'll say again, you can steam it for less, but then you're going to have a graininess to the finished product that you probably don't want if one of the things you're going for is texture. So I'm just going to wrap this up, press it just a little. I'm not going to break them up any more than they already are. I'm just going to squeeze just a tiny bit of the water out, and then I'll move this all into a colander and let it sit just a minute. It only takes a couple minutes. And then I'll start adding this to the food processor and mix it in with my hominy. Just going to put it all right in there together. This is still really good and hot. And I don't know if you noticed, I put the butter and the cream in first because I didn't want the cream to cool all this down. So I've got it all in there. Now this is going to take just a bit, and I'll do a little time lapse. It doesn't just automatically mix up. You have to push it down a couple of times because what we've got here is a fairly dry mixture. I only added 2 ounces of cream. So I'll pulse it a couple of times and then I'll just let it blend. And I'll stop a couple times and push it down to make sure that it blends evenly all the way through. And I probably blended this between 2 and 3 minutes total. Pushed it down a couple of times. And you don't see it, but I tasted it and added more salt. Altogether, I've used just a little bit over a teaspoonful. So just blending away. This is after I've added the extra salt. And I know you don't hear it, but it's blending at top speed. I turned it off. I'm going to check the texture. I don't want any cauliflower lumps in it. I want it to be smooth and like whipped potatoes. And we're just about there. I'm going to give it just a little bit more and then get ready to eat. Okay, this is good to go. Let me show you the texture. I'll get a little bit up here on a fork so you can see. And look at that. This does not have the same texture as just a cauliflower mash. And yes, it's cauliflower, but it's got a nice texture and a nice taste. Not, you know, cauliflower can taste kind of loud, as my mother used to say. This is mild and smooth. I'm going to measure out a half cup serving so you can see it. And let me run the numbers for you now. I'll round off the hominy number at 20 net grams of carbs per cup. I used 4 cups of cauliflower at 3 net grams of carbs per cup. That is 32 grams of carbs. This makes 10 half cup servings. That's 3.2 grams of carbs per serving. Is that keto? I think so. You decide for yourself. Let's suppose this half cup is just not enough for you. That means a whole cup serving is 6.4 net grams of carbs. And look at that. It looks like mashed potatoes. So here's the final test. I'm going to take, look at that. Does that look like mashed potatoes or what? Let me get a little bite here. That's a little much even for me. And you know, it's not mashed potatoes, but boy, it's good. And it has a nice mild taste, a nice smooth, fluffy texture. And I think that I can live with this and enjoy it. Thank you for joining us on Debbie's Back Porch. I hope you try this if you're eating low carb. This will help. Hope to see you again tomorrow.